Hello, everybody. Blonde Metal Gamer here with you once again, and it is time for another discussion. And in this stream, I want to talk about how The Witcher 4 can be made fully blind playable. I want to talk about how this can be done. I did a video on Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 3, which is also in development, and I want to talk about The Witcher 4 today. And what inspired this was the late great Super Blind Man. He would do blogs, written blogs. Well, I wanted to do something similar with vlogging, so I wanted to do this and do this in a video in live format. So today we're going to talk about The Witcher 4 and how it can be made fully blind playable, and I'm going to touch on some other video game news and topics I want to talk about and give my opinion on. So without any further ado, we're going to get this bad boy rolling. So we are going to start by talking about The Witcher 4. As you know, CD Projekt Red is currently developing the game, and personally, I cannot wait to check it out and see how accessible it will be. We all know The Witcher 3 had some accessibility in there, but I'm hoping that for The Witcher 4, they aim to make it fully blind playable, and I want to take this time to discuss how they can do that. So, the first thing I'm going to talk about here is menu navigation and how this can be achieved for a blind player. Now, the best way to do this is full screen reader support. I'm not talking just your basic stuff. I'm not talking about menu narrator. I'm not talking about narrating some things. I mean every single thing in that game is going to have to be narrated. So I'm talking menus, skill trees, weapon requirements, enemy health, your health, button inputs to attack enemies, to finish off enemies, etc. Those are going to have to be considered if they want to use that as a way to help make the game fully blind playable, full screen reader support. Now they can do this by either doing it themselves in-house, or they can use Sony's API for PlayStation 5, Microsoft's API for Xbox Series X, or an API for PC for native screen readers. Now, the advantage to this is it will allow the screen reader to read everything on that screen. I'll give a good example. Let's say Gears of War Reloaded. They're going to be using a screen reader that will read you not only menus, but it'll read the weapon you pick up. It'll tell you what button to push to do what. So it's going to have a really robust screen reader, and I feel that if The Witcher 4 had this, they could, use APIs to do it, or if they want to build their own screen reader in-house at CD Projekt Red, the best games to look at for that would be The Last of Us Part 2 and The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5. I'm referring to the remastered version of Part 2, by the way. And Marvel's Spider-Man 2. And then I would say Diablo 4, because they had good screen readers, and I would look at those for screen reader usage in The Witcher 4 to make it blind playable in that sense. Now, I'm going to move on to navigational assist. Now, you're probably thinking, Blind Metal Gamer, why does the navigation assist need to be in the game? Well, if this game, The Witcher 4, which we know is coming, will be playable by blind players, the navigation assist needs to be in there as an option for us to use. Now, the way this can be done, I'll give some examples. Marvel Spider-Man 2 has a multi-tiered system where not only do you have a point of interest, or POI, ping, that increases in frequency and pace when you're closer to your objective, they have a system in place that's been there since Spider-Man 1 where it will point the camera to your objective. Now, that would be cool. Um, that way to let you explore the open land and do things while keeping your objective tracked. Now, that would be a good way to do a good thing to do for whatever quest you have marked. You click it, you mark it, and then the camera can point you to where you're at, just by clicking the right stick or maybe pushing a button. Hey viewers, what's up? Welcome. We're talking about The Witcher 4, how it can be made blind playable, and then we are talking about other topics. So, Okay, navigational assist. Now, another way to do navigational assist would be similar to The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered and Part 1 or God of War Ragnarok, where it'll point you to your objective and point the camera in that direction and make a sound. That would be a good way to do it. So those are some ways to do navigational assist. Another way that Assassin's Creed Shadows does it is you point the right stick um, in a certain direction, and it will read the screen reader tells you how far or close you are to your objective. That way is okay, but I prefer the other ways I've described because you get not only a visual element, but you get the audio element as well. If they could combine that with the screen reader, that would be awesome. If they chose to go that route for Navisis. Now, I'm going to talk about combat. Now, this is going to be a bit tricky because I know there are Witcher players out there that love their combat. Now, the screen reader can be used in combat by telling you your enemy's health, the name of the enemy, maybe the weakness, and then when you equip the appropriate weapon, it'll tell you what it's weak against, the damage it deals, and all of that. And then let's say you are in combat and you want to parry an enemy. The screen reader will, if it's advanced, should tell you what button to push to parry the attack. Then when you attack the enemy and parry him or her, what button to push for a counterattack. Then when the enemy is stunned and in a state where you can do a finishing move, hit the screen reader should tell the player hit whatever button for a finishing move. That was the best way to use the screen reader in combat. Now, another thing I want to talk about in this section is game speed. Now you're thinking, oh my God, Blind Metal Gamer, why would you want to slow the game down? Well, here's why, guys. If the game is slowed down, let's say a low vision player wants to play the game, and they have a hard time reacting to attacks to parry or block them. Having that longer time to react is going to let that player learn what that timing window is so they can learn it, and then get their skills up to where they can maybe play at a regular speed. So having the option to slow the game down maybe during combat, and again, play an audio cue for when it's going to slow down. It'll let the player know, hey, it's coming, and then they'll have longer times to react for parrying, blocking, attacking, dodging, etc. Combine that with the screen reader, and you have effective combat mechanics there as well. Another thing I'm going to talk about with combat is, now I know you're going to hate everybody. A lot of people are going to want to kick me in the nuts, and they're going to hate me for this. Adjusting the combat difficulty only, not the exploration, not the collecting, just the combat difficulty. This was done in The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, The Last of Us Part 2 Original, The Last of Us Part 1, God of War Ragnarok did this, and a lot of other games are doing this. So I wouldn't be surprised if The Witcher 4 takes this route. And that is having adjustable combat difficulty options. That way, the player can adjust the combat to their needs and meet the needs that they have. So, and another thing that I want to profess before we move on, these options should not affect trophies or achievements for trophy or achievement hunters. So, okay, we've discussed screen reader for menus and in-game content. We've discussed navigation. We've discussed combat. Now I'm going to discuss collectibles and pickups. A good way to make this game, The Witcher 4, be fully blind playable is, again, use the full screen reader to read whatever item the player comes across. And if it's a collectible, maybe let's use the DualSense controller as well and vibrate when you get close to a collectible. That way the player knows, hey, there's something good here. I need to pick it up. So you get near the thing, whatever it is. The screen reader says push whatever button to pick up object. Or if there's an auto pickup option, that's even better. The object is picked up and you're good to go. Now that's going to be really handy, especially if it's a very badass ancient sword that does a whole ton of damage and just totally puts the brakes off them boys and lets them know what's up, if you know what I mean. You know, that's going to be very, very helpful. So that's something also to consider for collecting and another element to add to exploration. Now, I'm going to also talk next about cutscenes, in-game cutscenes, because I'm pretty sure that game is going to have a ton of them. Now, one thing I feel that CD Projekt Red should do, I hope you're watching, if you're watching this, either live or on demand. So if the developers, CD Projekt Red, watch, hopefully this will help you as far as accessibility for the game. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is descriptive audio for in-game cutscenes. This could apply to in-game cutscenes that are going to further along the story, as well as maybe, if applicable and appropriate, finishing moves. That way the blind and low vision gaming community can know what's going on with the finishing moves, know what each finishing move is, have it described. A good example of this would be Mortal Kombat 1. They had great audio, descriptive audio for in-game cutscenes, fatalities, and fatal blows. So if CD Projekt Red wants to go that route and do descriptive audio for in-game cutscenes and finishing moves, they'll have a blueprint to go on. Now, if they just want to do in-game cutscenes, good examples of this description are Marvel Spider-Man 2, The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, God of War Ragnarok, Assassin's Creed Shadows, and Star Wars Outlaws. So that covers descriptive audio. Now, I think, oh, one more thing. Circling back to traversal of the world. Have an option where the player can turn auto traversal on. That way the player can climb ledges easily. And maybe have a ledge guard system where when you reach a ledge, you won't have the risk of falling. That's going to be helpful for blind and low vision players as well, because if you're on a ledge and you fall and take damage, you, or at least I would be very, very angry at the fact that I did that and go, didn't mean to do that. So having that ledge guard option is a good thing, and so is the auto traversal option. Now, I believe I've discussed everything about The Witcher 4. So if somebody in the comments wants to correct me and say, hey, I messed up on something about making it blind playable, please correct me in the comments. So I think I've discussed everything there. So now we're going to talk about other video game topics and news. And so the first topic I'm going to talk about today is EA Sports College Basketball is coming back, baby. Now, am I excited? I'm going to be honest with you, my expectations are tempered because I'm not much of a sports gamer. I'm not a big sports gaming fan, and here's why, especially with it being EA. I'm not knocking EA, don't get me wrong, okay? EA are a great company, and I have respect for them, but the way they handle accessibility in a lot of their games, so for example, EA Sports Madden 26, and I'm sure College Football 26 will have screen readers. Okay, that's cool. But do all their games have screen readers? No. The UFC games don't even have that. And you would think, with EA being a sports focused company, let's get the screen readers in all games. So, am I excited for college basketball coming back from EA? Yeah, because it's going to give those fans something to enjoy. Now, am I going to partake in it? Am I going to play it? I'm going to be honest. I'm going to hold my expectations. I'm going to hold my reservations until I know what they offer in terms of accessibility, because I'm going to tell you right now, if EA Sports' Madden series and college football series are anything to go by, the accessibility needs a lot of work. And EA, they have the funds to do it. They got the funds to do this, but I'm pretty sure the higher ups and the investors and others are like, get the bare minimum in so we can get it out the door quick. You know, so um, there's that. So I'm pretty sure EA just wants the bare minimum to get it in and get it out the door. Now we'll have to wait and see because there's not been a release date or anything confirmed for this new college basketball game. But I am excited to see what they do with it, so I will keep an eye on it. Now, as far as college football coming to the channel, I've thought about it, but again, I got to wait on accessibility. So there's that. Now, as far as the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, I've discussed in previous videos what features can be done or used to make it a success. I've discussed what, you know, games I think are going to be in it. Now, is that coming to the channel? Yes, it's going to come day one. Because you can bet I'm going to buy it and I'm going to stream it for you guys day uno. Now, as far as the new Star Wars Outlaws updates, they gave 1.6 and 1.7 updates to that game to improve accessibility features. And I'm going to check that out. So it's either going to be some, you know, the next time I go live on YouTube with the PS5, that's what I'm going to do is check out those updates and see how well it does. Then I'm going to check out, let's see, other stuff too, but I'm not going to talk about that just yet. Um, I do want to say the next playthrough coming to the channel will be beginning August 26th, 2025, Gears of War. Reloaded will be coming to the channel day one. So we'll be doing an accessibility review of that, and I'll be doing the campaign and multiplayer and all that good stuff. So there's that coming. Let's see, Hellblade 2, will that come? Maybe, I don't know. Assassin's Creed Shadows, maybe, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about them. Now, as far as other topics, I was watching a video the other day on um, when about the Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, and I found and something was interesting that I saw or heard. That is that Digital Eclipse wanted to do a Killer Instinct collection. They want to do one. So I'm hoping that maybe after this Mortal Kombat collection's done, they'll do a Killer Instinct collection. I did a video on that, so go check that out. Now, as far as some pretty sad video game news, the makers behind Days Gone, Ben Studios, are done. They are cooked. Days Gone Remastered came out. I'm sure they wanted to improve the accessibility, but they were probably told by, again, the higher ups, get it out the door and close up shop. So it's sad for them. Then, as far as Turn 10 Studios, the studio behind Forza Motorsport, the rumor is they might be on the chopping block too. Again, that's a rumor. Don't quote me as fact on that. Here's to hoping they're not. And again, I'm hoping what they'll do is get Forza Motorsport to PlayStation with all the accessibilities that were implemented and worked on by the late great Super Blind Man. R.I.P. to you, Super Blind Man. Brandon, you were awesome. You rocked. I still find it hard to believe you're gone, buddy. So hopefully, if Turn 10 are able to get that in PlayStation gamers' hands, that would be epic. So we can play that game as well. So, hey viewer, what's up? Welcome to the stream. So, let's see, other game topics. I really can't think of anything else to really talk about because that's kind of all I have really to say here. So, with that being said, I want to thank everybody, even the lurkers, for coming out and checking it out today. I'll be back with more. So, with that being said, I hope everybody has a great day and happy Canada Day to all viewers and listeners in Canada. Happy Canada Day to you. And at the end, real quick, I do want to give some shout outs. Shout out to Bronwyn Billington, to Harry Smith, the British Bulldog, to the Heart Wrestling family. I want to give a shout out to the Evil Chocolate Cookie, a shout out to Silver Chain. I want to give a shout out to all who are watching and listening today and who will continue to watch and listen. I want to give a shout out to every accessibility consultant who helps consult on accessibility for video games for blind and low vision players. I want to give a shout out to all the game developers that take their time to include accessibility in their games. So here's a shout out to all of you. And with that being said, this is going to conclude the live stream here. So everybody is doing well, having a good day. So we're going to wrap it up. So with that being said, I've been Blind Moto Gamer saying so long, stay cool, stay safe, and peace out.